In this video, we are going to have a look at the counting tool, also known as completing an each takeoff, to see how it works. And we're also going to discuss what these takeoffs are used for. So I'm in my electrician category here, and as an example of what this takeoff can be used for, I'm going to complete a counting takeoff for downlights that are going to be included as part of the build. That said, the counting tool can be used for a whole raft of things. Things like door stops, tap fittings, plumbing fixtures, even jam studs and junctions in framing. It has an absolutely huge number of uses and can be used down the track for things like recipes as well, which I may touch on at the end of this video. The counting or each takeoff is connected to the EA or each unit of measurement on the estimate costing screen. And when we select the takeoff tool next to this downlights line item, we will arrive in our plans. Now, if you look in the top left, where you would generally see our four drawing tools, you may notice that it's a lot more simplified for an each takeoff, where we actually only have one drawing tool at our disposal, which is essentially just a dot that we are going to drop on the plan to mark where something would go, in this case, downlights. So I'll now select where the downlights are to be positioned. And each time I place a dot on the plans, the count will increase in the top right-hand corner. This is relatively straightforward, as you can see. We're just dropping a dot wherever the downlights will go. And very simply, it's going to then increase the count by one each dot we drop on the plans. So I've dropped 18 dots so far, and indicating that 18 downlights need to be positioned. There's a lot that can be done with a takeoff like this, even though it looks rather simple. Further down the track, we may wish to send out a request for quote to an external supplier or a subcontractor. And we can actually use this takeoff and send it to them to indicate where things are going to be installed. Now, if I click on accept and save, the quantity of 18 will load straight into my quote here. And we can see the relatively straightforward process of counting items that need to go into the build. As I mentioned earlier, you can roll the takeoff that you've completed up into a request for quote, or you could even print it from the plans and takeoff screen from here, where you're able to print out the plans with the selected takeoff included. I might just wait for that to render out, and we can basically then have a look at how useful it would be. We could potentially send this across to an electrician so that they would know exactly where items are to be installed. I've also left the takeoff labels on so they can see particularly what kind of item needs to be installed here as well. Another thing to mention about the each takeoff tool is it's quite useful when we talk about recipes. And we do have separate videos for recipes that I would urge you strongly to check out. But for example, with this doors recipe here, which is again an each takeoff, I've effectively listed out all the items that would go into hanging one door and also all the components like the jamb, the hardware, the hinges and skirting, even the labor required. And similarly to the downlights that we saw earlier, we could very readily use this recipe to create a takeoff for those doors. Be a simple matter of just hitting the takeoff tool as we did before and highlighting where the doors do go. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a separate video for this, so I would strongly recommend you to check out our video on recipes so that you can see how far we can push the use of the counting tool itself. Great. So that is how the each counting takeoff works in Buildxact. As always, if you have any questions or need any help, please feel free to click on the Need Help button where you can access our tutorial videos, our frequently asked questions, and also ask any questions to our live support team as well. Thank you. See you in the next video.